This evening, we have two wonderful speakers, Dr. Fuad Sobrinho and Mr. Naveen Maurasari. And both are from very different culture. Fuad is a Brazilian, and Naveen is from Singapore, right? And Fuad has done a lot of things in his life. He's the president of Society for Design and Process Science in South America. The organization was co-founded more than 25 years ago with the aim to promote transdisciplinary thinking, education, and research. And at that time, very few people know about it. And indeed, I recall the Harvard president tries to create a multidisciplinary program. It took him 6 years because of the strong objection from disciplinary professors. Right? But then in 2014, almost 20 years after the founding of SDPS, PS, sorry, it's not SDPS, it's SDPS, my fault. Society for Design and Process Science. And the National Academy in 2014 published a blue book and emphasizing the importance of transdisciplinary research and education. Fuad has lived in very colorful career. In addition to be a professor and entrepreneur, he was in his early younger days, he was the coordinator of Brazil's National Software Factory Project and one of the 3 directors of Brazil's prestigious agricultural research center called Embrapa. And throughout his life, he has been helping poor people around Brazil, both in villages and in big cities. And finally, he was instrumental in making the so-called food security program, the equivalent of America's US Social Security program, implemented in Brazil. And tonight, also, I hope he'll share his experience with death so that it will connect with the previous discussions. Our second, at least in our case, all right. Now I'd like to invite Fuad to be online to talk about your journey of the quest for meaning. Fuad.
I'm just arrived from São Paulo. And so I'm very grateful to participate. And unfortunately, I'm too late. Anyway, my journey as I thought I was would explain. I don't know if I have time enough, but anyway, I tried to make a summary of it, and I hope you're hearing me. Is it okay?
Yep, sounds good.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Fuad, I introduce you about your past a little bit, and also
Yes.
your touch of death. Also, the story of you're facing your death. All right.
Oh.
So, how you want to talk about all the things you have done in your journey. What is meaningful to you? now in your long life with many, you have done so many things, all right? Perhaps you can share a little bit of that and how experience of death also transform you.
Oh, yes. That happened in, I was in Brasilia, and I was giving a talk to Bank of Brazil to introduce the technology to Bank of Brazil. And then when I finished my talk, about 2 minutes, I had this heart attack. And then they took me to the hospital. And I took about 34 shocks to reanimate. And it seemed that the instrumentation had a mistake. And I used not to have that problem, but they gave me shock anyway, even if I did not need it. Then my sugar went up, and I came up to be with 600 of sugar in the food. And then after that, I was out of myself, and I was seeing everybody there in the meeting, in the hospital, in the room. They were trying to give me more shocks, and I was trying to tell them, please don't do that to me. That's stupid. I was talking to them, but they did not listen to me because I was kind of cautiously seeing what's going on. My brother was there, 2 other doctors, and 2 other people in the same room. I saw everything. I did not.
So your consciousness is floating outside of your body.
Exactly. And that was very interesting because when I, after some while, my daughter appeared to me, and then she said, hello, Dad, it's going to be fine. You know, don't worry, right? Because everything going to be fine. And then after that, I went up. I mean, I did not remember anything anymore. And then they figured out that the equipment was wrong, and they changed it. And then I went after the next day. They changed the hospital, and then my sugar was 600. It was kind of something. When I went to the doctor, then I stayed in intensive care in Brasilia for 1 week, trying to put down my sugar. And then after that, I was with 400, and then I took a plane and went to Sao Paulo to see a very interesting doctor. And then he saw my records, and then he said, if you're not here, according to your records, you're dead, but you're here, so you're reborn again. Say to your mother that she got a new son. So that was very interesting. I am trying to summarize. After that, I questioned myself if I want to live another life, if I want to have my wife as my wife, if I want to have my mother as my mother. I was deciding by myself my second chance. This is the meaning, the thing that I thought, and I decided by myself that my mother was going to continue to be my mother. My daughter was going to continue. I did not have any doubt about my daughter, but my wife, I didn't know any. But I asked her, and I said, I decided you to continue my wife. She did not understand that up to today. Just myself. This is an experience which I cannot transfer to anybody. It says just that I had a chance to have a new life. After that, my life changed completely. I used to work very hard, and I had to stop about 1 year doing nothing. I went to Austin to see Dr. Ye, and then he asked a question to me. I don't know if you remember that. You said, what is what you learned about your heart attack? I said, well, what's your purpose now? you asked what my purpose was. As I said, my purpose now is sharing. Sharing is still my purpose up to today. And I'm continue to have sharing as my purpose. And to share, you know, as I have learned since I was a child. I used to work with very poor, very interesting people that I used to have as my friends in the city I born in. And we did so many things together. One of them was, he didn't have any legs, but we used to play football, and he used to play in the goal. Those people, they were very, very poor people. And they used to work on the shop of my father. You know, my father has a commerce, shopping house, and they used to work there. Since that time, my life was continuously showing me that I need to work with people that I need them because they need me. That's the meaning of life is that I need you as you need me. And the thing is, what is to share? And the big question in sharing, in my terms, is as I understand today, as I comprehend today, is to share my dreams, to share everything, to share my problems, my solutions, my happiness, everything. And to share everything is not easy. Because when you have something like a heart attack, how you're going to share a heart attack? It's not so easy to share a heart attack. It's not easy to share happiness. It's not easy to share when you have a problem. Like my mother today, she's 95. I came out from the hospital now. I had an accident in the road. I cannot share my feelings of having this accident when I after saw my mother and she's fine. And how can I share this to everybody? So the thing is, what I have learned in my life is I used to work with Dr. Ye, and I learned so many things with him. You know, I don't know how to say this, but how to free myself from myself. It's to free myself from my feelings with other people. It's the freedom that we need to share. Is so, you know, it's so nice that when we say we are sharing, mean that we are really free of ourselves, and people are really free of themselves. If both of them are not free of themselves, it's difficult to share. Very difficult to share, because the feeling that I have, in order to pass this to my brotherhood, this means that they need to not need, but they are expecting, and they have the same kind of a synchronism of feeling that I may have. So then they can feel my sharing. And so the recognition problem is a problem which is very difficult. I had so many discussions today, just because we are not synchronizing in recognition. And this but the thing is, when I talk to a child, I have no problem of sharing. When the people grow up in age, then they're more difficult to free from themselves, and it's difficult for myself to share something with them. It may be that when I was very young, maybe a child, would be very easy for me to share something, which is more difficult today. So sharing is something which it shows synchronism or harmoniously and with other people. That what I want to share, they also would like to receive my sharing, and I need to receive their sharing with me. I know it's complicated to explain this, but the meaning of life is, it means that we are living when we feel that we are sharing. Otherwise, it's difficult to understand what is life means, because when this comprehension, it come up with faith, come up with love, come up with peace, everything together. And more than this, I need to be collectively with this. So it's very difficult to be collective, but when I mean collective means that other people together with me would have the same feeling, not the same feeling as I have, but the same open, that I am open. They are trying to share with me their feelings, and I'm recognizing that I do like to share with them their feelings with me, and they would recognize my feelings with them. And that is it's not so easy to explain, I'm telling you, but that is really the meaning that I live today, that when I talk to my daughter, and my wife and my mother, which is 95, and some other people that is 102, that I have a friend with 102, but also I have friends with 6 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old. And the thing is, the sharing that I can feel. When I feel I'm sharing, that it means that I'm living, I'm alive. When I'm not sharing, it means that I'm kind of out of context. My ego it shows that it's kind of important to me. But when I'm sharing, my ego is not here. I'm free of my ego. So that is the meaning of life for me. The meaning is, sharing to me today means that, as I try to explain, I'm saying again and again and again, and I cannot explicitly showing this to all of you, but it's, when I saw the eyes of my mother today, she was crying, listening to me, and I began to cry, listen to her, and then we share something, but I don't know how to explain. My sharing is that she was extremely happy. That's why she cried. And I'm extremely happy to see that she was happy. And then I cried. So we were crying, that was showing to both of us that we were recognizing our happiness. And that is, my happiness is that if she passed away, that's wonderful. I am with her. And if I pass away, she's with me. So that's what we feel today, just tonight. That is one thing. That's one example. Some other examples, like I mean, day before yesterday, I was in the street, and there's a very poor man asking me food, and I didn't have any food with me. Then I said, okay, let's eat lunch together, because then we can eat something. Well, you are sharing the food. I mean, the moment, not the food, but the moment of eating. That we are sharing the moment of eating. And that just was so happy. It gave my day. Yesterday, before yesterday. I was so happy that I said, I don't need to work anymore today. That's the best I could get today. I learned this with a very old man about 25 to 30 years ago. His name was Paulo Freire. And he said to me, he educates people, and people get, and people learn with him, and he learned from the people what is the situation of that person. So she used to teach young children, and the child would come to the school and talk and tell him some story, some problem, and then he learned the problem and try to share the problem, and try to share the solution. When both of them learn the solution together, I think today they are sharing something. And he said, I educate people when we try to understand their own life, and they try to understand what I'm meaning in order to help his life. And when I do this, I learn, and then he teaches me how to help him. So he said that this was education. I have learned a little bit about it, and also when I finished before my impact, I had a different experience, which was I was during the night. I was alone by myself, and I was talking. That's very strange. But I was talking to somebody that I could not see it, and then I figured out that this body was my father. And then I began to talk with my father, and he began to talk with me about my experience when I was a child, when I was 2 years old. Then I exchanged this experience with my mother. And she said, yeah, that's true. Who told you that? I said, well, it doesn't matter. Because if I tell you, you're not going to believe me. She said, no, please tell me. I said, my father. But he's passed away. It's a long time ago. I said, yes, but I have a talk with him tonight. So this was a different kind of experience in sharing with somebody that's not here. It's a spiritual sharing. And that is, so you have body sharing, you have spiritual sharing, and love and peace is spiritual. It's not body. Matter of fact, it's hurting me here now because I'm very tired. But I'm extremely happy trying to share with you the concept of sharing. So that's spiritual. That's not my body, right? So that's an example. So when I talk to very good friends like Dr. Ye and all of you, I feel that I feel so happy to be here. It's so nice. I don't know if I can share my happiness. If you're really trying to recognize that I'm trying to do this, and you try to open yourself to understand what's my happiness, then you feel I'm sharing. So this is and that is something which is together. It's not something just myself. Myself, it means that I'm sharing with something which is some spiritual when I don't have some other people that I can see. So I know it's confusing, but in some ways it's not so easy to explain my meaning of life. My meaning of life today is really to share. It's sharing is a conquering level of a spirituality that sometimes we cannot explain, but we can feel it. We can feel. So I can feel the spirituality of my daughter, of my wife, of Dr. Ye. When I see Dr. Ye, I'm become with a very happy stage. And that is interesting because every time I talk to Dr. Ye, I know he's happy to see me too. So I know I'm sharing this. That does not happen with so many people. You know, so that's my really experience of my
I have a question for you. Fuad.
Yes.
And when you talk about sharing and this deep sharing, you basically have forget about yourself, your normal self-limiting assumptions, right? So to speak, because when we talk to different people, we have guards, you know, because depends on who this person is, right? We are guarding ourselves, but when we are free from those our own self-limiting assumption, then you are truly, as the previous two sessions talk about, you made a transformation from I to we, so to speak, all right? And so let me bounce the ball back to Naveen. You know, Naveen had been talking about teaching kids well-being, all right? And I wonder, Naveen, you have any comment on Fuad's sharing and about how this openness can be transferred to kids that you're helping.
What I loved about what you shared, Fuad, is this idea that when you had your heart attack, it almost seems like this idea of yourself being the end of life, or being yourself expanded into something larger. And I as I listen to you, I have this feeling of how your whole life is now set in the context of others. When your mom was crying and you were crying with her, and you talked to Dr. Ye, it's all this sense that I am part of this larger thing. I'm part of this, not even community is too small a word.
Right.
It's much bigger than that. And it's such a powerful realization that all of us on this call, we exist, we live, and we laugh and we cry because of each other. We live completely interdependently. And it's an illusion that we are singular. You know, the famous saying, no man is an island. And this is so true. But it's different to understand it from an intellectual perspective than it is from a sense of feeling. And I'm just very grateful that you were sharing these feelings of connecting us with your larger world. So thank you.
Oh, I'm very grateful that you really could explain better than myself. That is wonderful. It means that we are sharing, really. It's and that is the experience. Is like Dr. Ye said, it's from I to we, is because I does not exist. Just we exist. Everybody's connected, and so when you have the feeling that we are we, that's you. I think I understood that you said this, and that is this connection is so interesting. And we try to interpret this connection. And this connection doesn't mean that it's some abstract thing. But like now, we are happy to talk with each other. There's a connection, very nice connection, and that's really sharing. And like we said, I didn't feel the end of anything when I had my heart attack. It's just expanded. That's really true. That's totally that's what I felt at that time. And that's the beauty. The beauty of life is to understand this and to see that this is really real. Any other thing is just abstract.
I want to just also share something in the comments that Barbara mentioned. This concept of shared inquiry, which is also practiced at DRBU, that we explore questions together. And to build on Fuad's last point, there's a beautiful quote by a poet called Reich, who talks about living the questions. So don't be in a hurry to answer questions, but patiently live the questions so that in one distant day, we may live into the answer itself.
That's wonderful.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that's very nice. But we think I think this meeting is so special. I never forget this happening, and I try to be more deeper and deeper in this relationship. That's wonderful. That's really there's no way how I can explain this feeling. That's the beauty, because I cannot explain. You, myself, Dr. Ye, all of us can explain, but just one of us, we can feel, but to explain is difficult.
Well, perhaps I can interpret your kind of feeling in terms of the word authenticity. That is, the ability to share is when a person become authentic, or maybe go back to the state when they're babies. There was nothing, there's no evil in the world, all right? And I recall that one time when I was in Brazil, Yo and Yoma took me to visit the cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church.
Yes.
in
Brazil.
In Brazil, right? And this guy is very famous because when he was 36, he was the president of the Catholic University.
Yes.
All right. I mean,
yes.
when he was 36. Yes. So very famous, very well known. And I recall that when we were there, we were 10 or 12 people there. And the Calvin came out and very courteous and stop by to say hello to everybody for a couple minutes and then say, okay, thank you very much. Good to see you. And he turned back and walked away, right? And everybody was very polite. Well, of course, here is me, who is American, so to speak. And I said, wait a minute. I said, I have a question for you. Don't go too fast, right? So you remember I asked him, what's love?
Yes.
All right.
Conditional and unconditional love. Yes, I remember that question.
And what was shocking to me was that he turned around, he said, Ray, I was brought up as an orphan in the Catholic Church. So all my life, I heard about love. Everybody talk about love. Love from God and love from everyone. I never felt love. And he said, I talk all my life, love, but I don't know it. I was so shocked. I mean, just imagine if a reporter were there and published in the next day newspaper, right? The head of Roman Catholic Church tells everybody he doesn't know what's love about, but he talks about it all the time. I was so impressed with his genuine expression. He just said what it is. He doesn't know. And then he said until one time when he had a car accident and his whole body was crushed. And when people pour in letters, in other things, ways to tell him how they loved him, he finally felt love. Now, you remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
All right. And I was shocked because a person of his position can tell something will be totally contrary to what everybody else thinks about. All right. That to me is genuine. He is authentic.
Yes.
Right? And so in that sense, your notion of sharing, is that like that? Because you don't hide anything.
Yes. Something like this, Dr. Ye. It's very close to it. My feeling is that when I see your eyes, I can feel your eyes, and I feel what you can, what I think I can feel that you feel for me, and I feel together, and that is we, like our friend said. I'm very comfortable now that sharing means that like you said, transformation of I from to we, from I to we, and love. You don't love just by loving yourself. You love yourself if you love your spirit, and your body and spirit. It doesn't mean that they are the same thing. Sometimes you can feel something in the body, and you can feel something different in the spirit. And if they are not synchronized, and if you're not harmoniously, then you're not sharing with yourself. And that happens with different people. And what I feel about love, it means that it may be that love, that what he said is, sometimes we don't know what's going on, but when we feel that we are sharing something, it means that when I say we are happy, it means that we are loving. That is, you got exactly what the meaning that I tried to explain. That's my way of interpreting. But that's a very good question. And also, you asked a different question to him: if love is unconditional or conditional.
Right.
And then he said it's unconditional. But then after that, he said, I don't know what love is.
Right, right.
That is very, very interesting, because when you don't put any condition, it means that you're free from yourself. But by the other way, you require the other people, not you require, but if the other people do not have the condition of treating yourself, to recognize yourself, then it's difficult to love. So in my interpretation today, that sharing is a context condition, not my condition, but it's a context condition that happen that I am sharing. And that is sometimes there are moments of sharing. It's not something that you're sharing. You know, there are moments of sharing. And these moments should be very appreciated. Like I had today with my mother. And I just gave this example because it was really real. And I did not even think to tell you tonight about this feeling. But anyway, you remembered a very good day that I was in Brasilia, myself, you, and you asked that question. I was very impressed also by his answer. It's very, I was shocked. I was shocked. And I used to know that guy when he was president of Catholic University in Rio de Janeiro, because I used to be a student over there at the time. And I didn't have any money and anything to eat. And I came to look for him. I said, I need your help. I'm here. I'm going to do my master's degree. And I don't have any money because the money did not come to the bank. I don't have anything to eat because I don't have anything to eat. He said, okay. He stayed with me in my house. And then we came, stayed together today. And who knows, tomorrow, you may have this money coming and eating. I said, okay. So there's a different experience. So I knew him from this experience. And when he said that he didn't know what love was, I was very shocked. Because the guy himself, he was a kind of a loving person. What I mean by loving person, it means that he used to live trying to love every moment. But trying to love doesn't mean that we know what love is.
Right.
And very authentic. You're right.
I would love to tie this together with the idea of non-conceptual frameworks, or I mean, I won't even say emptiness because I don't think I understand what emptiness means. But as you were speaking, as both of you were speaking, I was thinking of the story of an idea being like a boat that gets us across a river. So we have an idea of what love is, and it's a useful boat to have because we have to cross the river. But in order to keep really deepening in our understanding of love, we have to cross the mountain. So if we carry the boat, if we carry the idea, it prevents us from climbing over the mountain. So maybe knowing and really understanding love is in the wisdom that he expressed in the idea that he doesn't know what it is, because maybe he's letting go of what he thinks love is to really understand what love is beyond words.
Well, that's a very good example. Now, how do you imbue this concept into the kids that you're helping in your program?
Well, as I mentioned before, a lot of people think we work with kids, but the truth is most of our work is with adults.
Right.
If the teachers of the school, if the educators in the school can understand these concepts, particularly when it comes to self-love. I don't think I've met a single teacher who became a teacher because they wanted to be a millionaire. I think most people that enter into the profession are full of love, and they are very altruistic and very kind people. But I notice a very common problem. They cannot apply their idea of love for others to themselves. And self-compassion is such an important part of not just contemplative practice, but also endurance in a field that's very emotionally demanding, like teaching. And when it comes to the concept of love, one of the very simple questions we love to ask is, they may say, oh, I'm so busy, I have no time to meditate. I'm so busy, I have no time to take care of myself. So the question we ask in response to that is, if this was your best friend who was really suffering, would you extend a helping hand to take care of your best friend? And almost all of them say, yes, of course, I would drop everything and I would go take care of my friend. And the follow-up question is, so why won't you do it for yourself? And then most people don't really have a good answer for that. But unless you can really understand what self-love is, then it's very difficult to teach these concepts to kids. I mean, I would say it's impossible. I mean, you could say it, but I don't think it would really impact people. And without self-love, then you're always in danger of burning out. And it's very common to find teachers who are in the profession 2 or 3 years, new teachers, who they burn out and they start to hate teaching. They start to think, wow, they become cynical. They think the world is terrible. But I heard a beautiful idea about cynics. And a cynic is only a cynic because they were once an idealist and their dreams were crushed. And that's why they became a cynic. So in the same way, without self-love, there's no antidote to doing good work to serve the world. So I would love to bring this theme of love back to practicing self-love and then using that self-love to alleviate the suffering of all beings.
What would you say this self-love? The practice of self-love is a process of self-transcendence.
I'm going to give the answer that I don't know what self-love is.
Okay. Fuad, you have any answer to that? I mean, after you, well, I guess in a sense, Navin's answer is correct. For example, if I recall that after you encounter death, in fact, your consciousness go out of your body, right? And then you come back. You have no more sort of self-limitation in terms of thinking yourself. A lot of us think of us not so good. We look at ourselves, we say, well, I'm not doing well in that aspect, I'm not doing well in that. But after this experience, would you say that not only you have erased that self-limitation, but you feel that everyone else is just the same?
So I think maybe people do not perceive that, but everybody, they do the same all the time. But they may not be, how can I say, not perceived, but they don't have the feeling that they have this this property of limitation all the time. I mean, limitation by myself. I mean, my spirit is when I get out of my body, it means that I am feeling my spirit. That's what my way of seeing it, and everybody has its own spirit, and this spirit is not just for myself. is a collective spiritual meaning. And that is difficult to explain when we are from I to we. Means that we are getting our spirit, and our spirit is kind of a collected collection of spirits together. That means that one spirit, and that is one spirit. When it comes that to happen, that means that that's really sharing something. I mean, the sharing is with the spirit. When all of us is one spirit, means that we are sharing. Maybe this, Dr. Ye, maybe clarify better what I was talking about sharing, according to your lesson that you gave to me tonight. And also what I'm learning from my professor, teacher over there, is that when he said, I don't know what self-love is. The thing is, because self is difficult to have a meaning of self-love, but meaning of self-love may mean that we are loving together, and it means that we are, how can I say, we are, we have the ability, the capacity of doing something, and with other people. And when you have this meaning, when we have this ability, it means that we are really trying to share. And people are very happy when they're trying to do things together that they wanted to do. So doing is part of sharing when we do together to the same purpose, which is difficult to say because different purposes are not so easy to say that they are the same. Because my purpose is one, your purpose is a different one. But when we think that we have the same purpose, then it's different. It's different. We can feel that, but we cannot explain that that purpose is the same as I have my purpose of your purpose. So it's difficult. The complexity of this how to explain this is not so easy. But it's easy to feel. Yes.
Okay, we have only a few minutes left. Naveen, do you have any more comments to make?
Yeah, maybe just a closing comment based on what Fuad was just saying. And it's a very quick story. There's a watchmaker who I've known for a long time, and he's a very devout Christian. And he believes that God made him just like he makes these very, very intricate watches. And what I am so admire about him so much is that he lives in his life in service of his God, and he gives himself to something larger. So Fuad's question on, purpose really comes to a question, which is, what do we want to give ourselves to? For some people, they give themselves to the altar of material goods. For other people, they give themselves to religion. For other people, they give themselves to serving the environment. It doesn't really everyone's path is different. But I think the question I guess I would love to leave with all of you is, what would you like to give yourself to? Thank you.
That's a beautiful question.
Yes, it is. And my answer, not my answer, but the question is a question, which is we live together with this question all the time. And it helps me to explain what I mean by sharing, because sharing to me is what I live up to. That I put myself to live up with sharing, and the sharing, it may be spiritual, it may be religion, it may be many things, like Navy said. So the thing is, what are yourself to put yourself on together with other people? I mean, what you're to really give up. Yes.
Well, any questions? Any more questions from the audience? If not, I think our time is up.